Have you heard of hide a component? Hi everyone, my name is Swadhin. Today we'll be learning hide a component. Let's get started. Okay, what is hide a component? Hide a component basically provides superpower to your React component. Okay, I'm not kidding on that. It provides some enhancement to your existing React component. How awesome is that? Okay, let's understand it by a definition. A hide component is a component wrapper which provides special ability to existing component. Oh, I know you don't get it. So let me explain it with an example. So let's go to my VS Code, and I have created a React project here. You can see that, and we have used create React app to create this project. And let's run this project. To run this, I will run npm start. Okay, sorry, I am in the parent command. I need to go to the particular folder. So I have to run the npm start, and let's wait for a few minutes to get it started. Yeah, this is the application. This is the initial stage of our application. So what we'll do here is basically let's go to the src folder, inside that the app.js, and you can see all this code. We can remove this code because this is not needed for us. Okay, to start, let's remove this code, and there are some css in app.css. And those are here. Let it be there. Okay, let's not do anything with that. Okay, what we'll do is basically inside this folder, let's create a new folder in the src, and let's give it a name, components. Yeah, that will be better. Let's give it a name, components. So inside this components, what we'll do is we'll create one new file. I'll name it as post.jsx. Okay, so this is the React component we have created, and this will be a function component. And basic we are just, let's see whether let's import it in the app.js, so to see that it's working fine, and that's it. So we have the import things there, and we are getting some error here. Let's see what error we are getting here. Post.json doesn't exist. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Great, let's do one thing. Let's stop this and let rerun it. Sometime React development server gives that kind of problem, and we've done npm server. Yeah, yes, cool. Let's starting the development server, and yeah, we can see that. We can see the post here, which is basically the React text which we have added. You can see that, so we are able to say it. Okay, so what we can do now is let's modify this component, okay, to create a simple card. Okay, why we want card, I'll show you, because I want to show some example of data. So that's why we need certain kind of css. We will be using basic css, so I will create a header here which is post. So there's a h1 header, and on top of that I will be creating another div. Okay, and let's give a class name card to this one. Okay, and basically this let's create another div inside it, and let's give it basically, okay, let's create, cool, let's create another div here, and let's give this class as a container. Okay, cool, and then we have this header inside that. Cool, yeah, that this will be fine. And then we can have another paragraph which will have some other information like email id or something like that. Okay, so why these classes are still not there. Okay, we need to create it. So let's go ahead and let's create those classes. Okay, inside here let's create those classes which I have added it. So basic classes, so I will be adding a card which I have added there. Okay, and I will be adding box shadow, and let's give some shadow of 0.1 pixel. Okay, here. Okay, yeah, let's give some basic styling here, and I will be giving 000, yeah, 0.2. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so these are some basic css. You don't need to worry, or we can google it about it. We are just creating a basic card, and let's give a width. Yeah, that's fine. And on hover I want it to a little bit expanded, so I'll again use the box shadow here, and let's give 000 and 0.2. Cool. And we have also created a class called container, right? Let's add that also. Okay, if I see, yeah, this container class, let's add it, dot container, and just give padding. That's it. Okay, great. So now we have created it. Let's see that how it is looking in UI, and for that we need to import the css here. So I'm just importing app.css here. In real scenario, we can use style component or something like that, but just this is for a demo, that's why it's fine. So this is the example we have seen. This is the card we created with the CSS, and we have a hover effect here. Okay, so now we have created the component, but our what we need to do now is basically we need to show some data here. Okay, and we need to show some data from an API. I will not create a direct API. We'll be using a third party called Json Placeholder API, and you can this is basically a fake raised JSON server. For to get this, what you can do, you can go to and you can search Json Placeholder API in Google, and you will be getting it. Okay, and that will be giving you the first link, will be giving you that API link, like fake REST API. This is a REST API created only for use. We can use for demo purposes. That basically it's not doing delete and update all this thing. You can see for most of the things we are doing get here. So I'll be using all this API, what I was saying. I'll be using posts, and mostly the another one I will be using users. And in post you can see these are the information, user ID, what is the body, and all these things. So we'll be using this API to react with our post JS, right? So let's copy this API URL, okay, and let's go back to our component, which is basically, let's go back to our VS Code and let's add it here. To add it here, what I will do, I'll be using to call API, we basically in a functional component we use use effect, which is basically the component did mount of functional component. Means whenever this will be mounted, it's a combination of component did mount and component did update, obviously, but we'll be using here to call the API, and we can pass a dependency array, and we are doing a fetch call here. In the inside fetch, we can pass the URL which we copied, and then we can use then, and whatever data we are getting from here in fetch, we need to convert it to JSON, so we'll be calling JSON, okay, and then we can add another then to get the data. Okay, once we have the data, let's console log it. Let's console log this data here. So for that, I'll just basically, let's see the data we are getting. We are able to get the data from the API. Okay, let's save it. Go back to the UI, and let's go to the console log here, developer tools, and in console, if I expand it a little bit, and we can see that these are the data we are getting from API. Okay, so these are the data we have. So we are able to get data from that API. So we're getting the data. So what I will do, I'll create a state here because I need to save that data. So in React we handle the data using states. I'll be creating state data, set data, use state I'll be using, and let's give it an empty array because initially it will be empty. And after then I can remove this console log here, and I can do something like set, yeah, cool, this looks fine, and I can set this value here. Cool. So we have the data loaded from here, and what I can do, I don't want that many array data, so I'll be minimizing it to 4 elements. So I'll do user slice 0 4. Cool, that's fine. So I will be having 4 elements now, and let's do one thing here. What you can do now, we have the data available, so I'll be opening a JavaScript expression here to see that whatever data has a value or not. If data is valid and data.length is greater than 0, then what I need to do, I need to return this card element, right? The card element which I already created. So I'll copy this here and paste it, and insert on the OR part, this is the this is giving error because we haven't given the third condition. This is the ternary operator, and can give null or empty thing. It's fine. Okay, but if I go to my browser, you can see only one. Okay, why it is one? Oh, okay, why it is one? We are not doing a map here. Okay, we need to do a map here. I just missed that part. Okay, basically what we need to do, after getting the data, we need to map it throughout the data. So we'll be using map function of the array, and inside the data, what I can do is, let's revert it back, and let's here what you do, data.map, and we'll be passing a callback function, and from that callback function we'll be returning this JSON. Let's copy paste it here. Great. Now let's pass the data here, means we can have the post here, and this is giving error because we haven't given the third operation. Cool. Let's format it a little bit. Okay, so this is our code. So we are doing a map. Let's see that in UI how it is looking, and you can see that we have 4 elements and we're getting an error there. Okay, the error which we are getting is because of a key prop. Okay, we need to pass, whenever we are doing a map, we need to pass a key prop, and we need to give a unique ID. And you can see if the API we have user ID, okay, we have the ID, so we can pass this here as the unique prop. So now we'll not get that error. Let's refresh it. We are not getting that error, and we have 4 elements. Okay, so we are able to see the post element. It's very easy. It's working. Let's replace this with all the data we are getting from the API. We are just hard coded it, right? So let's replace this with all the data we got from API. Okay, and that's basically this title and body. Okay, this title and body we are getting, let's replace it here. We can give it post or title, and instead of email ID, let's give this post dot body. That will be fine, right? Let's give it this body. Yeah, so let's give it body. Let's go back and see. Okay, my bad, I have just hard coded it, sorry, my bad. And let's change it to post dot body. Let's give a JavaScript expression and give it post dot body. That's fine. So now we have this component which is having 4 elements, which is getting the result from the UI. And what we can do is, let's have this API. Let's see, use this API you're seeing, right? It has also similar kind of data. It has a name and email, right? Suppose I have a requirement, call this API and get this data and render it in a functional component, right? So what I will do is, I need to go to my, and let's add another file called user.jsx, and this user.jsx will be calling this API and getting the data, the other user API, and then render it. Okay, let's copy paste this in user, because we are changing only few things, and it will be similar, almost similar. So let's change it to user. Let's change it to user here, and where, yeah, that API, let's change it to users. And here also we don't have title for users, right? So we need to use name and email there. These two property we need to use. So let's change the title to name and the second one to email. Okay, great. And let's import that user here so that we can see that in the UI. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back here and see. Okay, we're getting some error. We are post. Okay, I think I missed something in the user. Let's go back to the user. Okay, I have given that post. That's fine. Okay, I haven't changed it here, so I have changed the user here. I didn't change the local variable there. Let's change it. It's getting post is undefined. Okay, why get is giving post is undefined? I'm missing something. Key. Okay, that key is post.id. That should be user.id. Okay, my bad. It's just a mistake. Since I'm doing live, so it's just a mistake. So user.id. So, and I guess you can see that we have the and we didn't change this heading also. You can change it to users. Okay, so do we have a differentiator? We have post, we have user. Don't worry about CSS. That's not a CSS tutorial. It's basically a higher order component tutorial. So let's understand it. What basically we are doing, we are calling an API, we are getting a data, we are rendering it. Both the cases we are doing the same thing. Okay, and for doing same thing, we have two component and we have duplicate codes, which is a problem in React. So to solve this, we need a higher order component. So what I'll do, I'll just create another component called with-data.jsx. Okay, and what I will do, this will be also a functional component. Okay, so I can use RFCs to create functional component, but this higher component will help us to reduce the duplicated code. So what we'll do from here, we'll be creating inside the with data function. Basically it will be taking two parameters. Okay, we need two parameters. We need, one is the component which we want to enhance, right? And the second is in our case, we need the API URL also, right? We are calling different API for different component. So we need those two things as input, and we can create a class component here. And I can give this class a wrapper name and extend it from react.component. Let's call react.component. Yeah, that's fine. And from react.component. Okay, first thing what we can do is we can create a constructor here. Okay, and we can pass the props, whatever you're getting. And let's call the base constructor super by using. Okay, let's pass the props there also. And we can create a state here, because if you remember in our functional component, all the API call, we have created a state, right? And that state we get the data, whatever data we got from API, that we can put it here. And we can create the state, and that will be empty object, and that will be data, and that will be empty array, right? That's such state we are creating. And let's call the API in a component did mode. In a class component, basically this call all the API call we do in a component did mode. It will be called when the component is mounted. Okay, so for that what we'll do, we'll go to a functional component, whatever the API call we are doing, we can directly copy paste those things here. Okay, and also you can see that we got this thing and it is giving some error. Okay, that's fine. So what we can do is that error we can see, I think some mismatch between the bracket. But before that, what we have also the data source. If you see that we have data source also passed here. So let's don't hard code it, because it will be used on many component, and remove this URL. And let's make it data source, right? Whatever we are passing as an input parameter. Okay, and then why we are getting this here. Okay, we'll come to that why we're getting. Let's first change the set data here. Like set data will not work here because we are updating the state here in a class component. So we need to call this dot set state, and then whatever the data property, it was empty area before, we need to make that to the whatever value we are getting it, right? So let's get the curly braces. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So basically we are done with the component one, and the next thing will be the render method, right? And render method will be it will basically all the UI whatever you want to render, that will be there in this component, right? So what we can do is, we are getting this error because I guess I didn't close the constructor one. Yeah, that's the issue. I didn't close the constructor one. So what I can do is, I can from here I can return it and do a format here a little bit, and let's create then close it. I think I'm missing something here. App component, okay, let's add it here. Data, let's pass this data as input parameter here with the wrap component. Let's complete this. Let's see where we're missing the bracket, and let's add the props, whatever props, let's pass it to the from here. So basically we are returning the wrapped component, but with the additional data feature we have, but still we are getting that error, right? Now everything is fixed, right? We are not getting any error, and we can return the wrapped component from here, right? The wrapper which we created, the class component, right? So basically we have enhanced it, and we are returning that wrapper from here. The data will be as a prop here. So let's use it in our functional component where we have already calling the API. So we don't need all this API code which we unstate. Let's remove all this thing. Okay, and let's differentiate this export default, because what we need to do is we need to call that higher order component, and how we can call is after export default. Okay, we generally export the component. In this case, this will be post, right? So we will be doing post, but what we'll do here is we'll be calling out with data higher order component. Okay, and it takes two parameters. First is the component itself, so we'll be passing post here, right? Because this is the component we want to enhance, right? Post, and the second one will be the URL which we want. So I can go to the URL, and I can take this URL, and I can pass this as a second parameter, basically what URL you want, right? So, and what changes we need to do is, you're using data property, so data that needs to be destructured from the prop we have, right? So we can give data here, no, not in capital, small. Okay, now it should work as expected. Okay, let's go to our UI, and what we can do, the same thing we can do for the user also, right? And before doing that, let's copy it here and export default, and here user, we don't know user, we'll be using with data, and then pass the first component as user, and we can pass the URL. This URL we can pass the API URL for this one. And again, we need to also remove all this thing, and also we can destructure data from the props here. Okay, and that's, I think that looks good. All this thing is done. We can remove all this on use repo. Okay, cool. Let's go to the URLs. Let's see, and you can see everything is working as expected. Okay, and we don't have those duplicate codes as well. We haven't repeated anything. Similarly, tomorrow we have another component, it can use that with data component, and that will also used by this one. So basically, this is the way we implement a higher order component. We enhance a component by passing and by returning another component from existing component, right? So basically what we did, we took the component, we enhanced the property, and return it as the same component, add with the extra features, right? And we can similarly do with the you can see this, we have used a class component, but we can do with the functional component also. But we cannot use state there, because in case of functional component, React doesn't recommend you to use state inside a nested function. So that's why we have generally used class function to do that. So that's about today's higher order component, and we have learned how we can implement a higher order component. I'll see you with a new video next time. Thank you, everyone.